ritual offers more permission for me to just actually be with what's true instead of being so rigid about trying to hit all of the to-do list, if
Yeah.
that makes
Well, hello and welcome back. Um, I'm so excited. Today we get to have back Wyld Lee from Wyld Fempyre, and she is going to share some fabulous tips for us today. Before we dive in, though, Wyld Lee, will you tell me what is in your coffee cup?
Yes, so I was sharing earlier, but I gave up coffee this past year, and so I have been into the mushroom coffees. I just really, really appreciate how they are operating with my body. And actually, can I show you the tray that I brought?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
I know the
I mean,
podcast listeners
just so you
can't
know, so we'll have some of this will be audio and
hear.
then we'll have video too.
Okay,
But yeah, show it, please.
perfect. Well, because the original topic was morning rituals, morning routines, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, I built this tray for myself. This is my kitchen tray. I have a tray in my bathroom that's my morning ritual, and then in the kitchen, that's my morning ritual. And so when I make my drink, I use mud water. That's the one that I'm into right now.
Yum.
And I add some golden milk to it because I
Yum.
really appreciate the anti-inflammatory properties.
Yeah.
Then I'm so excited. Okay, I'm probably all over the place, but I'm really excited to be talking with you at Equinox, right? Because
Yes.
myself, when I am really building these rituals, these systematic ways of caring for myself, I feel like it's really important to tune in at these seasonal markers and really shift whatever the ritual is. I think a lot of the times we get so mentally attached to this idea of the perfect routine that we actually lose sight of the rhythms of our bodies and the rhythms of the seasons themselves. And so what I'm sharing with you is this is my spring routine, right? So I've sat down, I'm like, what does my body need right now? And right now, my body feels like it needs a liver cleanse for spring. So
Yeah.
right here, I've got Oregon grape and I have milk thistle, and I'm finishing off my bottle of vitamin D from the winter, to
Ooh,
keep
yeah.
my mood up. And I'm also using a couple of different homeopathic formulas right now. And so I keep them all on this little tray. I'm also really into ion gut support. And so when I make my morning drink, that's just part of my ritual. It's part of my routine. I take my tinctures, I take my multivitamin, and I mix up my mushroom coffee. And I've just found that if I build these little trays for myself, it supports me because I don't have to think about all the bits and pieces. Like my ritual is I take out my morning tray, right?
Nice. Yeah.
And then I make my drink and I take care of my body. And then I have my morning tray in the bathroom and I don't have to think about it. I pull out my tray. Here's the things that I want for my skin. Here's the things that I want to take care of my body. It just seems to give me more flexibility so that I don't have to feel guilty about not nailing the routine every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So as long as I pull the tray out, I've been a success. And some days I do everything in the tray. Other days I'm running late and I'll just get like the main bits from the trays. But as long as I pull that tray out, morning, afternoon, and evening, I have won the game. That's what I've decided.
I love that. Okay. So, um, so why don't you, I love what you shared about your little, um, your morning and night, is it morning and night kits, which is so
Morning.
nice when you have everything in one place, isn't it? Like, then you go to it and that's so awesome. Um, that's part of your morning routine?
Well, I call it ritual because my rebel brain, if I use words like routine, I'm like, no, not doing
Yeah.
it. So I have to follow ritual. And what I have trained my brain to is that my ritual is pulling out my tray. That's it. Like I don't obligate myself to doing anything in the tray. The
Uh-huh.
ritual is 3 times a day, I will pull my tray out and be
Love
with
it.
it. And if
Yeah.
I have time, then I'll give myself everything on the tray, right? Because I know that I will feel amazing when I do everything that's on my tray. But some mornings, I'm perimenopausal. I don't sleep through the night, a lot of nights sometimes. And that extra 45 minutes of sleep is much more needed for me than necessarily gua shaing my face or doing all of the extra things that I love to do, right? So, um, I guess for me, ritual offers more permission for me to just actually be with what's true instead of being so rigid about trying to hit all of the to-do list, if
Yeah.
that makes
Oh, yeah. I absolutely agree. I give myself also some flexibility and
sense.
it is it just kind of it's like what do you need? Connecting with yourself and seeing what you need. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and letting it change seasonally because what I
Yeah.
put on my face in the middle of winter would break me out all summer long, right? Like
Oh,
things have
yeah.
to shift. We get to be dynamic beings that are changing all of the time.
So when you're doing, so you say you do it 3 times a day. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming the morning and the night, probably right before bed. Um,
Yep.
so middle of the day, how do you do that? Just kind of when you're feel called. Right?
That's my afternoon tray, and that's more like because I tend to fast in the morning. Like I have my mushroom coffee, but I really don't eat until 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that has like any vitamins or supplements that I'm taking at that time, I'll do with food at lunchtime. And then I'll put 1 or 2 things on there that I go to just to help regulate my nervous system. I know you know this as well when you're working with people one on one. You just take on a lot of energy, like you're in a lot of stuff. And so I have found it's a non-negotiable for me. I have to regulate myself multiple times a day so that I can walk into any of my work and be fully rejuvenated and calm and grounded so I can offer the best of myself to my people, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking how, I mean, almost all of us, it's kind of that common 3:30 slump in the afternoon. So many people like feel like their energy just like plummets. And how awesome to have that right there. Like have your tray of goodies that are
Yeah.
good for you and nourishing to kind of revamp you, give you some more energy for the day. Such a
Totally.
healthy choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of going to another coffee or something that's going to
Yeah.
maybe make me sleep disturbed later. It's like, no, I'm
Yeah.
going to get my essential oils and I'm going to do the things that make me feel back in my body and not up here in my head where I'm getting a little overwhelmed by all
Oh,
of the
yeah.
things that need doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you so and then when you do your morning ritual, is that like when do you do that? Is it like right out of bed? Is it something you do after you're all ready for the day? Or do you want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that?
Yeah, so this morning tray where I make my mushroom coffee, that's the first thing I do. That it just helps me. I like to ease into my morning. I'm not one to jump out of bed. So I have to make that, and I usually get up somewhere between 6 and 7, and I make that for myself. I journal during that time, kind of clarify with myself. I pull my tarot card for the day. I might sit with my altar, and then I meditate for 15, 20 minutes. And then if I have a spacious morning, I also like to put in some stretching or some sort of just really getting into my body. I might dance for a few songs. But most often I like to just like roll around on the floor and really just open up my body and kind of get blood moving.
Nice.
Hmm. Yeah. And if I give myself that nice spaciousness, then if the whole rest of the day is already won, right? Like I've
Yeah.
done all the things and
Yeah.
I never want to put any pressure on it, right? So that's why it's like it's in the tray and okay, I needed to sleep an extra 45 minutes. So I'm not going to do all the things, but I still took the tray out. I'm not going to be hard on myself. Keep moving because life is life.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I'm thinking, I don't know. Well, so I shared with you, I have a little grandson, so I spend a lot of time with the little one. And so I'm often looking for ideas on, how to make our day more um smoother and everything. Um and I've seen like, little kids trays. You know what I mean? Like parents planning, like, it's kind of like teachers do at school, the little planning, little activity trays and things like that. But it's like we
Mhm.
all need them. Every one of us needs a tray, a tray of stuff.
Yeah, well, and it keeps things organized too, right? Like I've also in the last year and a half really been on this journey with feng shui in my
Ooh,
home and just really diving into how impacted I am by my environment. You
yeah,
I noticed after my children moved out and then moved back in and then moved out and moved back in that it's like, oh, wow, I'm really personally affected by stuff and people and learning how to navigate and move through these difficulties has been just a huge piece of my journey for this last couple of years. And, having all of these things comes at a cost, right? Like having these herbals that I'm taking, these are 4 bottles, and if they were sitting on a counter somewhere,
hmm,
they would drive me a little bit irritated. I would get
yeah, yeah,
irritated at all of the clutter. Like my eyes just really prefer having smoothness and spaciousness, and so when I have these trays, then it makes it easier for me to utilize storage space.
yeah,
Don't have to look at all of the excess that sometimes self-care requires.
yeah. Oh, I think it's so brilliant. I love that idea. I'm totally doing that. So, do you have a certain way that you go about like choosing certain things? Or you just like you said you change it for the season?
Mhm.
Um, do you have any tips on how to create your tray?
Well, yeah, I do it seasonally, and then really I base it on what my body needs and on this concept of, well, it's not a concept, it's the truth. We kind of live in a toxic world right now, and so it's really imperative for myself that I'm always working in some sort of detoxing practice so that the load on my body is as minimal as possible. I just feel like in my late 30s and into my 40s now, and I'm almost 50 at this point, I have really begun to feel the impact of poor diet choices early in my life and using plastics and using commercialized products with ingredients that I can't pronounce, right? And the more that I reduce those things, the better I feel in my body, the more energy I have. And so I guess my suggestion would be really developing some self-intimacy and being super honest with yourself, number one. Like, what is the reality that I'm working with? I know I see in a lot of my clients that it is a light bulb moment for them to even acknowledge to themselves that they're operating under extreme fatigue
Yeah,
or that they are, you know, faking energy through caffeine and other stimulants and just coming to that place of, oh, I am in this animal body that has needs well beyond what we all have been trained to think of as needs. And maybe I've been numbing out with Instagram and Netflix and sugar and whatever else, right?
oh yeah,
And when we, develop that self-intimacy and we get to know what the baseline is we're working with, then we can start moving with more inspiration, finding the practitioners that are really supportive for us. Maybe we go to the naturopath and get, a baseline of where we're at, and then we can start adding in small things and see, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working on cleansing my liver right now. I've just felt like a lot of blockages. I've had a lot of anger coming up, and anger is the emotion attached to the liver, right? So I'm just intuitively working through this space. And it makes sense, right? Like you come out of winter, we're kind of sluggish. Maybe we ate denser food. I tend to eat a lot more meat in the wintertime. And
Mhm.
then I want more greens and light stuff in the spring, which is more bitters, like it's more liver activating. So I guess I want, if I could leave any seed for your listeners, it would be I want you to trust yourself and start listening to your body because your body is going to tell you what you need when you actually can deeply listen.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great advice.
Hmm.
So you have um, I want to say, is it a system for supporting people dealing with procrastination?
Mm.
Do you want
Well,
to talk a little bit about that?
yeah, this kind of downloaded a couple of years ago as well in my coaching practice. And I call it the P protocol. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word pussy on your station, but it's basically your pussy protocol. Most of my clients are women. And I have just discovered that when women are dealing with procrastination or pain or feeling under pressure, that we tend to shut down. We tend to stop the flow of our creative energy. We stop the flow of our vitality. The majority of my clients go into a protective mode or they step into freeze or fawn, people pleasing, right? There are people who step into fighting or running away, but most of my clients, we tend to come into, and then we
Yeah.
hold ourselves there. And so I developed this protocol based on working with myself, really,
Mhm.
and figuring out like, oh, okay, here's my trigger, here's what's been activated, and here's how I've been able to move myself out of it in a way that is gentle and doesn't add more pressure to my system.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's got five stages, and the first one is permission. I think it's really, really important that we as humans begin to give permission to whatever active experience we're having in the moment,
Mhm.
immediately trying to hide it or fade it or fix it, but rather actually just being with it. So
Mhm.
if I'm sitting in procrastination, all right, I'm procrastinating. I'm procrastinating, right? I can just give it permission. I don't need to shame myself about it. I
Mhm.
don't need to feel guilty about it. This is for myself, a practice of such deep self-trust that I know I am procrastinating for a reason that makes a lot of sense to some part of my brain.
Mhm.
And I just don't quite understand yet why my brain is trying to keep me safe from whatever the thing is that I'm attempting to move into,
Yeah.
right? So that's step one. We give it permission. And then step two is pleasure. So once we've given it permission, we know what's happening. We kind of just put it on the shelf here, like, okay, I'm procrastinating. I'm going to choose to focus now on some pleasure, on something that really allows me to feel more embodied and in my skin.
Mhm.
This is mostly sensuality for me. So I might oil my hands or body oil. I might take a bath. I have one of those, I don't know what they're called, but the little things that you put over
Oh,
your
yeah.
scalp massager. Oh,
Yeah.
like 10 minutes just massaging my scalp. I actually have a board of post-it notes of things that bring me pleasure. And I'll just, if I feel totally like deer in headlights, I don't know what to do, I'll go to my board and just be like, that one. Pick a post-it note and I will do that for 10 or 15 minutes. Just anything to kick my brain out of the neural pathway that's been grooved to go to procrastination when I'm in an uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
Because that's really the thing, right? Like we get uncomfortable, we have some story like I don't know what I'm doing or I don't know what the next step is. We get pressure Or maybe we're really emotional because something's happening in our lives, like we have a death in the family or a breakup or whatever,
Mm.
and we're uncomfortable. And so it robs us of our confidence and our belief in ourselves.
Right.
So if we can just like pop out of that neural pathway, get back into our body with some pleasure, we're regulating, right? This is another way of just regulating ourselves. And then from regulation, we can come back into the mindset and we can start stepping back into purpose. That's the third phase of this protocol. What's your purpose? What is the purpose of whatever you are moving towards? Is it a project in your home? Is it something with your business? Is it something with your marriage or your relationship? What's the actual purpose behind the motion where you got stuck in procrastination?
Mhm.
Once you see that purpose, you can reignite that fire in your belly. You can come back into your power and recognize I've got choice here. I actually do have choice. I may not know all the steps to get to that place, but I can come up with the first one. So, power is the fourth part of the P protocol. And then the fifth one is play, because I believe in this culture, we've been trained to operate under force and pressure, and the antidote to that is to actually make everything play. Like my business is play. My relationships are play. I'm here to experiment and try and not be perfect. And if we can offer ourselves that energetic frequency of just enjoying life instead of trying to get it right all the time, it just removes that next layer of pressure,
Yeah.
right? So that's the P protocol: permission, pleasure, purpose, power, and play.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think if people practice that, they're gonna get out of that procrastination and get things done where you're gonna, procrastination, sometimes that can take like days. People just get like stuck. They get really, really stuck. So
Yeah.
what a great tool. I love that.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and the thing with procrastination, at least in my lived experience, is that it's not the pausing from whatever path you were on, it's the resistance that we create inside of ourselves.
yeah.
Recognize the pause, right? Like past version of myself 15, 20 years ago, if I was in procrastination, I would spend a week berating myself over the procrastination, over my lack of productivity, over all of the failures
Right.
that I stacked on top of this one little momentary procrastination. When instead, if you can first just give it permission and not create any resistance in your system, you create nothing to push against. So we can simply just take the moment as it is and then gently move past it without having to make such a big, emotional rigmarole about it.
Yeah. I love that. That's perfect. I love it. So wildly, can you tell us so how would someone work with you? And can you talk a little bit about what you do? Because I know you do coaching, but maybe explain. I don't really know how to put into words all that you do. But if you want to explain for our audience. Um,
Totally. Well, so my business is always moving, right? Like I'm a pretty dynamic being. I refer to myself as a quantum witch. I kind of have,
I love that.
yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
I have so right now, my business is moving. I am stepping into five rhythms facilitation more, so I'm moving more into somatic and embodiment work.
By the way, I think you should come back and talk about that
Oh, I'd love
because
to.
I was like, we got to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. So right now, people in the gorge can come dance with me or my mentor Sarah Maines at Moon Mountain Highway. We dance every Sunday, and I'll be moving into holding workshops this fall, embodiment workshops, which I'm really, really
Nice.
excited about. And then as far as my private practice, my business you mentioned is Wyld Fempyre. I work primarily with women, and my niche, my magic is really working with boundaries and pussy magic and helping women step into reclaiming their juiciness and their joy and their spark. And I do that through energy work, working with the tarot. My coaching practice is called Rebirth Initiation packages. I work with women for 9 moons, 9 moon cycles, and support them primarily in transition times.
Mhm.
So, divorce, turning 40, children moving out of the house, those sort of big life events. I just, I'm really, really good at supporting women in seeing where they have kept themselves small and taking off those masks, stepping out of those boxes, and coming back to that essential core self where we're just fully alive and authentic and building a life that's actually a work of art that we're really proud of.
So beautiful. And
Yeah.
you're amazing. I have to say thank you so much because I now, just my whole attraction to understanding the moon and the cycles is all because of you. And thank you. You're so amazing. Um, um, and if someone wants to work with you, we'll put your information in the show notes. So do you want to let people know the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, all the normal ways. Through my website, you can email me at wildfempire at Gmail or send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. I love communicating, so just hit me up wherever you find me. It's Wyld, W-Y-L-D. It's pretty easy to find me most places. Yeah.
Gosh, thank you so much. You brought so many great tips today. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I hope that it supports your audience.